welcome back to OTR Reviews, and today we have a very special review in a car that's arguably going to be one of the most important cars that Ford ever designed. It will be thought in the likes of the Model T, the Sierra and the Escort in the future. It is of course the all-electric Mustang Mach-e. This car is leading Ford's charge in the full electrification of their lineup, and today I'm going to show you why this car is a fantastic attempt at a first electric car from Ford and why they're taking the fight directly to Tesla. So let's jump straight in, no more waffle from me. Let's look at the Mach-e. Now, as always here on OTR Reviews, we're going to start with specifications, and I need my information document, surely because there's so much on the standard Mach-e that I can't remember it all because I'm a bit thick. So, your standard Mach-e is the rear wheel drive, and this comes with 18-inch alloy wheels, privacy glass, a quick clear windscreen, dual zone climate control, heated front and rear seats, heated steering wheel, rear view camera, adaptive cruise control, all-round parking sensors and pre-collision assist tech, and all that from just £41,330. Second in the Mach-e lineup is the Mach-e all-wheel drive, like the one I have with me today, and this starts with the lower battery at £46,650, but raises well above 50,000 when you have the extended range version like this one I have with me today. Now, on the all-wheel drive you get the 19-inch alloy wheels, the red brake calipers, and a second electric motor power in the front wheels, which just helps with that additional bit more grip, as the car can stagger its power with the separated motors in some of the more challenging conditions, but it still is a fantastic car to drive. And finally, top dog, you couldn't have a Mustang without a GT option, and the Mach-e is no exception. Coming in at £67,225, the Mach-e GT isn't a cheap car. It comes in 3 exclusive colours with 20-inch alloy wheels and special Magnum Ride suspension. And the best thing, the dual electric motors produce 480 brake horsepower, which means the Mach-e GT really is the full package. Now, this is the part of the video where I normally talk about engines, but the Mach-e being electric doesn't have one, it's got batteries. And you have a choice of 2 with the rear-wheel drive and the all-wheel drive variants, which are a 75 kilowatt-hour battery returning around 279 miles, and the 99 kilowatt-hour battery returning 379 miles of range. If you opt for the GT variant though, you're gonna have to have the 99 kilowatt-hour battery, and it does come with a lower range at 310 estimated miles, and that's surely because it's got a much more powerful motor power in the car and it's a lot quicker. But that really is said, for £67,000 you'd expect maybe just a bit more range than that, but if I'm honest, when you're going 0 to 60 in around 3.4 seconds, do you care? Now, moving on to practicality, the boot of the Mach-e is 402 litres with the seats up, and the seats do fold down to a 60/40 layout. Now, there is quite a heavy boot lip here, but that's really not a problem because this boot load floor is fully adjustable like so, and you eradicate most of the lip. And underneath here, you've got a bit of extra storage for your charging cables. But the storage doesn't end there. Now, normally when you buy a Ford Mustang, under this bonnet area the size of a small Pacific island, you expect to find a thumping V8 engine, but not in the Mach-e. In the Mach-e, Ford have been quite innovative and fitted a storage area. This is what Ford are calling the frunk, or the front trunk. Very American, I know. It is about 80 litres of storage with the divider in, which is perfect for storing some charging cables. If you want more storage, pull the divider out and you get 100 litres of storage, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Another nifty feature on the Mach-e is the hands-free tailgate. Now, I haven't got any shopping with me, so I'm going to keep my hands in my pockets to demonstrate this. The boot I can open without touching it. I simply wave my foot underneath and the Mach-e detects my foot and opens for me, and then I can put my shopping in, and that's all hands-free. Not only that, but you can have a tow bar fitted on the Mach-e. It is very limited though compared to some of the other cars, at only 750 kilos, so it's not your ideal tow car. The rear space in the Mach-e is really good as well, thanks to its long wheelbase. And the other thing to note in here, you can comfortably fit 5 people, and that's thanks to the lack of a hump in the middle here. It's completely flat. That's because the car's not got a transmission system like a traditional petrol car, it's a battery underneath this floor. So the Mach-e is perfect if you carry him 4 or 5 people. It really is a multifunctional car, and there's plenty of room to stretch out and move my legs. Now, what you will be saying is, oh, the driver's seat's really far back. Well, actually, that's another feature. As you turn the car on, the front seat adjusts back to the driving position and it reveals that space. At the minute, the seats come back to aid getting in and out the front to make the driver just that bit more comfortable. But for me, it's a really highly functional car, and in the back here I've got plenty of headroom, even with the panoramic glass roof. Storage inside the Mach-e is really good as well, with some nice large door pockets here. And when we look inside, you can see we have this space here with the wireless charger, and even some more space underneath. When we look underneath the armrest as well, it doesn't look like much until I pull that back and we find a deep space with a 12-volt connector. It is worth mentioning there is another 12-volt connector in the boot, as well as a USB and a USB-C here in the front, and one of each in the rear as well, which means the car is very interconnected. Now I'm going to show you a little bit more about this 15-inch touchscreen in the middle here later on, but the one thing I want to note here is the practicality of the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now notice there is no phones plugged in here, and there's no phones plugged in the back. But what you will notice is it's connected to my partner's phone, and that's because Sync 4A can connect to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto completely wirelessly, which is a massive leap forward over Sync 3. Now the last thing I want to mention on practicality of the Mach-e is the FordPass app on your smartphone, as you can see opening here. Now it's currently set up for my Focus, not the Mach-e, and I'm not going to set up the Mach-e because otherwise I'll have it stuck on my phone forever. But the one thing to know is it's a little bit flimsy in the past, but with the Mach-e it's very, very different, and it's become a lot more interactive. I mean, you can plan journeys on your phone, sitting on your sofa, and send them to the car for the morning. So if you're leaving to go on holiday driving somewhere, you set up your route and fire it off to the car. If you want to get the car started in the morning with the heaters and stuff, you can do that. If you want to set up a charging schedule, again, you can do that. Change your driver profiles on your FordPass app, and it will adjust the mirrors, the seat, and even the infotainment system settings to the preferred version of whoever's driving. It's a lot more interactive than ever before, and it has just made the car even more connected with the driver. The next section we're going to talk about is styling, and the first thing as always is the colour choices. The Mach-e comes in 6 in the rear wheel drive and all-wheel drive setup, and 3 exclusive colours on the GT. But I'm talking today about the rear wheel and all-wheel drive variant. Now this car comes in 6 colours. It starts with the absolute black for free, and if you want one of the other 5s, you're going to be shelling out at start price £800. And if you want this absolutely glorious rapid red, it's £1,150, which is a lot of money for a paint job. Now straight on to the styling of the Mach-e, and the first thing I'm going to tell you about is the pony badges. This car is littered with pony badges. It's very clearly a Mustang, but I thought it was a Ford. I'm yet to find a single Ford badge on this entire car, and if I didn't know anything about cars, I wouldn't think this was a Ford. I mean, they've set up this amazing electric car, and I have to say, for their first attempt, it is really good. But there's not a single Ford badge on it. What were they thinking? Right, now I've had an energy drink and I've calmed down from not finding a Ford badge. I'm going to tell you about the body of this car. And to be fair, it's very, very clearly a Mustang, isn't it? Look at these headlights. They're very Mustang-esque. And even the bonnet, they've kept these aggressive flares, making it look, it's flaring its nose. It's exactly like you'd find on the V8 Coupe. And this car has so many styling features which are keeping it in line with the Coupe. It is simply a coupe on steroids, this thing. And the next thing about the front is the lack of grille. There's no cooling system on the front of the car, or so you think. This is put in place to allow air just to roll off the car and get a bit more range. But down the bottom, the grills at the bottom open and close as the electric motors need to cool down. So if they're getting a bit warm on a longer journey, these grills will flop themselves open and allow air to flow underneath the car, cooling down the entire electric motor system. Now looking at the side of the Mach-e, again, it's a very, very handsome car and a coupe on steroids. And they've used some clever trickery here with some two-tone paint. If you notice, this arch here comes up and drops off beautifully at the back, just like a coupe would, but the black lining at the top is where the roof actually is. It's very deceptive, and it just allows to get that headroom in as well with that extra roof line end and the spoiler. But they've tried to keep the standard lines extremely close to the coupe. The other thing that I'm a little bit wary of is the size of the alloys I feel them probably a little bit small, especially on the rear wheel drive at 18 inches. Even these 19-inch alloys look a little bit lost in those massive wheel arches, but they are very, very stylish wheels, and they're not like your traditional electric car wheels all closed off. They're very open and they look fantastic. Now finally around the back of the Mach-e, and again we've got subtle styling and hints to the coupe, like the long flowing rear screen and where the bump boot lid would normally be here with a kind of spoiler look. The 3-stroke lights have also come across from the V8 coupe into the Mach-e, and I really love the way Ford have integrated this car into something that does look in a base level like the V8 coupe. They really haven't taken away the Mustang styling features, which is something I was really worried about when I heard that Ford were releasing an electric Mustang, especially when I read it was going to be an SUV. I have to say, I'm very, very impressed with the way this car looks. I'm even more impressed with how it drives. The next thing you're going to notice is the lack of door handles on the Mach-e, and that's to help reduce drag. Not that they'd make much, but again, a very innovative feature from Ford is the e-latch system which replaces it. I simply walk up to my Mach-e, I press the button on the door and the door opens. And the best thing, I can't then shut the door on my fingers until I've opened the door fully, and then I can shut it. It makes it feel like I've got a bit of a chauffeur. I've walked up to my car, can you open? Yes, thank you very much. I've got to do very little effort to open the doors. Now, interior styling on the Mach-e is again very, very good. I mean, just look at how stylish this seat is with the beautiful red stitching as well. Makes it feel really, really sporty. And these are actually very comfortable with good lumbar support and the heated function. The door cards as well run along with a nice silver line, and coming along here we find the Bang & Olufsen soundbar. It's a 10 speaker setup inside this car, which has an absolutely fantastic range of sound as well. All the materials in here are quite hard. They're not like your soft plastics, that sort of thing. They're very, very well built, very well designed. And coming into the middle, we've got this nice armrest here as well. The gear selector knob here, it's just a rotary dial like most Ford bits are. It's quite easy to use. But then we've got the 15.5-inch touchscreen, which has always miffed me a bit because I'm not allowed to use my phone while driving, but I can use an iPad. To be fair to Ford though, I will be completely honest, they have disabled a lot of the features while the car's in motion, so you can't faff around with this. The steering wheel itself, it's very Ford, again another pony badge, and it's very nice. This is a nice softer leather, it's very nice, it's very comfortable and easy to use as well. The screen at the back here can't be adjusted, but it gives you all the information you could possibly need on driving the car, and it just looks fantastic, and it's not very distracting either. And now you will notice these two flashing lights. They aren't actually flashing at me because they're infrared. I can't see them, but the camera picks them up, so don't worry about that. Apart from that, inside we are absolutely happy with this, and look at this. A full-length panoramic roof. It just gives the cabin a bit more of a larger feel. It makes it more open to the world, and it really is impressed me so far. Now the Mach-e has really good charging capabilities with its charging able to take AC and DC charges. However, if you want a bit of fast charging, the Mach-e can plug into 350 kilowatt charges here at GridServe on their electric forecourts, and likewise other charging stations. The Mach-e will only accept 150 kilowatts at max though, but that will get you from 10 to 80% in just 40 to 45 minutes, which is pretty impressive when you're on a longer run. And when you're running around town or at home, you can charge it off of a home wall box, which you can buy from Ford. So it really doesn't have that many downsides to an electric car, with a decent range and excellent charging capabilities. If you're going on a longer run, say from London to Scotland, you're going to be making 30-40 minute stops every now and then to have a break anyway. So what's the problem? Now, the next thing I want to show you is the 15.5 inch touchscreen as part of the feature demonstration part of this video, because this is where you control the entire car from. Down the bottom here you've got your previously visited sections. You can see my CarPlay, my nav and my owner's manual, which I'm going to quickly show you a pretty cool feature. So I've got it preloaded on this video here for us, the courtesy white video. If I turn that on and turn the volume up, it will play for the speakers and tell me about the car.
I just washed my windows.
That is pretty cool. Now with that you can also search for stuff. This screen is very responsive, much better than previously, and here you go, straight away it gives me all the stuff I could possibly want and the information. And this replaces your standardized logbook to tell you what's going on. This button at the top here brings you to the entire section, so you can go from your CarPlay, an app catalogue, owner's manual, phone navigation, tyre pressures, all this sort of thing as well, which will automatically load on the screen here, giving you plenty of information. You can see where your local electronic charging stations are going to be. It gives me the list of where nearby ones are for me, so as you can see I'm pretty central to these 5. If I can also go for a dynamic parking, which will find me car parks nearby. Now because I'm in the middle of nowhere, there aren't any car parks nearby. If I touch this Mach-e in the corner, you're going to notice it will move, which I think that's really well programmed. But it'll bring up this kind of control menu, and I can select the driving modes from active, whisper, untamed, which will change the propulsion sounds, and untamed feels like it's got a bit more throttle response as well. I can turn on one pedal driving, another feature I'll show you a little later on, and down the side I can look at the all-round cameras. I can see what's going on with the parking sensors as well, split the cameras. It really is quite a clever, nifty bit of kit. We can go into the parking settings. If I press the P button in the middle, which I showed you earlier, we can activate the park assist, but I don't want to do that right now. You can change some of the driver assistance, so your auto hold, your traction control, and even some of the additional controls, which will move us over to settings. Now talking about settings, this is the settings menu, and it is just got so much on there. The blind spot, wrong way alert, and you can turn all of this off as well. But also you've got your driver profiles. There aren't any created on this car just yet. We've got the charge information, so when we can schedule some charging up there, we can press this button here and it will allow us to change some of the settings. We can go to vehicle, and once that loads you're going to see there are absolute tons of vehicle settings on here. It is just unbelievable the amount of information this car gives you from this massive screen. You literally can control the entire car from this screen and all of these settings. It really is very well put together by Ford. And the other thing that I love what Ford have done with this is a lot of these settings, a lot of these controls you can't use while driving, because that's always been a big question on electric cars, is why have they got this big screen when you can't use a phone? Well, you can't use a lot of this. You can use the climate control features down the bottom here, but a lot of this setting stuff you do need to pull over to change, which I think is a really nice touch from Ford. Now the next thing I want to show you is the blind spot information system, and this has radar on the car which detects when a car is in this blind spot area here, and you necessarily can't see it through the window or in the mirror. What the car will do, it will illuminate this sign here, and if you then indicate, it will flash and give you an audible warning in the cockpit to tell you that there's something there, so it warns you and you're safe. You're not going to pull out and have a collision, which just again is another further enhancement of the safety features of this vehicle. Now the next thing to show you in the Mach-e I've got to be driving to do for the next few segments, and that is going to be the limiter and the active cruise control system. So you press this button here, you can select your speed with this, take your feet away from the pedals, and the car will keep itself at said speed. But it's intelligent as well, so if any cars will be in front of me and slow down to 20, it would all of a sudden slow the car down and keep a safe distance, which is controlled from this button just here as well. So I can set it to 2, 4, 6 and 8 seconds. This is a very, very incredibly clever car. And the lane keep assist here as well also allows me to stay between the lines, and just if I start to lose concentration and wander, the car will detect this and pull me back into line. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the one pedal drive function, which is incredibly clever. And as you can see by this little light here, it shows I've got it on. I don't need to touch the brake. I can simply accelerate with the accelerator pedal, and when I lift off, the car will bring itself to a gentle halt. And unlike most electric automatic cars, it will hold itself stationary. Now if I need to make an emergency stop, I can obviously then use the brake, but I've simply then just got to press the pedal and pull away like so. It takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you know the braking capability of the one pedal system, you can comfortably use this car without ever having to use the brakes again, which helps extend the brake life, and not only that, reduce the harmful emission of brake dust into the environment. Now next thing I'm going to show you on the Mach-e is the active park assist, and as you can see I've already got it preset for some parallel parking. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the car to a lower speed now, and as I slow down, the car's going to start detecting for me as I indicate what's going on, and the car's going to find itself and space that it can pull itself into, and it's using radars at the side of the car to detect if a space is large enough for it to park in. And when it's found one, it will give me an audible warning and tell me to pull up to a safe stop. So it's found a space, I stop, shift into neutral and release the steering wheel, hold the park button, as I hold this button down, you see the Mach-e is steering itself. It's pretty surreal. I'm not doing anything here. I'm just holding the park button. I'm still holding the park button. This is very, very surreal. And the Mach-e has just parallel parked itself better than I've ever parallel parked before. And as you can see, the lorry has moved, so it's just moving itself into position now, and it will tell me when it's done. And I'm parked. Apply the brake, and there you go. How awesome is that? And now I'm going to show you the Mach-e reversing into a space. The next thing is the Mach-e pulling out of the space. So I want to come out of the space here, so I'm going to indicate, shift into neutral, release the brake and hold the parking button. And the Mach-e is going to back me up automatically to how far it needs to swing its nose out. It's then going to pull its thing like that, and now it's told me it's finished and that I can take control and pull out of a space with space at the front to spare. How cool is that? And now the last bit of parking assistance that I'm going to show you is the bay park. So that's all set up now. I'm going to pull into this golf club car park as you would with your new Mach-e, and I'm going to drive. I'm going to pull up here along some spaces. The car is currently using its radar guidance to detect if any spaces have been found, so it's found a space. Into neutral, release and hold the auto park button, and now the Mach-e is driving itself back into a bay. So it's seen the bay, we can obviously see it on the screen. I'm just keeping an eye on the front here as well. It's automatically adjusting itself. I'm trusting the car here. This is a pretty surreal experience, a bit like the parallel parking. It's quite clever. So the car's now detected it needs to pull itself forward a bit, so that's an awesome feature for those who aren't quite as confident parking a car. And it's done it perfectly. It's parked itself absolutely perfectly in the space, and we're done. Now that is an awesome feature. What is the Mach-e like to drive? A big, heavy SUV with a battery? Well, you'd be surprised. It's relatively comfortable and the suspension's quite nice as well. It's a bit rougher than you'd say your standard SUV is, but then again, they have to make it quite stiff to deal with the extra weight. And if I'm honest, it's not uncomfortable, and the steering's pretty precise as well. I mean, you turn the wheel and it goes. There's no kind of play here. It just moves really nicely, and it feels very natural. There's a great progression in the steering here. It just progresses, and there's no kind of sharpness with it, and it makes it an absolute pleasure to drive. And it's the same with the power delivery. It's a very smooth transition of power. There's a lot of it. I mean, this all-wheel drive version with the bigger battery has around 320 horsepower, you know, and it just takes off. But it's a very smooth progression of power as well. It really does feel quite nice when you're driving it along. You know, it's quite a bumpy road I'm on now, and I'm not uncomfortable. The seats are hugging me in. I'm happy. And it's such a nice place to be as well. It doesn't make you feel like you're sitting in a Ford. You feel like you're sitting in something a lot more premium, which I think is absolutely amazing. Now, what else do you need to know about the Mustang Mach-e? Well, 5-year NCAP starts and a whole host of safety pre-crash equipment, including evasive steering assist, pre-braking assist and blind spot information assistance as standard on the car. Really does help keep you safe in a car this size, and it is only around 2 tons in weight, which makes it a lot lighter than some of its rivals, which again helps extend its range. Ford do offer an option of a home wall box, which is something OTR Reviews and myself we would highly recommend as well, because a 3-pin plug on this car ain't gonna cut it, and there isn't enough infrastructure in the UK as far as charging stations go. Just grid serve down in Braintree. If you want to see that video, click the link up here. However, the home wall box is definitely a good idea. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, a very special review for a very special car. This is Ford's first attempt at an all-electric car, and I have to say it is a magnificent piece of work, and it really does rate up there with the likes of Tesla. Now, the other thing to remember here is Tesla have been making electric cars for over a decade, and this is Ford's first official attempt. So I can see why they've launched it as a Mustang and not as a Ford, and that will annoy some of the Ford purists, because they'll be like, oh, it's not a Mustang, it's not got a V8. What does it matter? They're launching a new brand of car. They're going to use a brand, a recognizable brand that sells. And I think they've been very, very clever in the Ford marketing department by doing this. This car has absolutely won me over, and it really has sold me on electric motoring in the 3 days that I've been driving it. The one-pedal drive system, which we demonstrated earlier, is absolutely fantastic as well. Makes it seamlessly easy to drive the Mach-e, and I have to be honest, if the extended range version like this one wasn't 50 grand plus, I would seriously be considering changing the OTR Reviews ST. But I'm so in love with that car, and this is very expensive at the minute. I can't afford it, but maybe in the future I'll be lucky enough to be able to own this fantastic car. So till next time, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jamie Green, this is OTR Reviews, and I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, drop a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. We do have some more special reviews coming up, and hopefully not too distant future we'll have a Tesla joining the channel as well. If you've got anything you want to ask about the car, drop a comment in the comments box. Until next time, stay safe, and this is the Ford Mustang Mach-e.